welcome to the second review of the evening. A game called Pamela. Uh, Mind you, Pamela is an acronym for something. I'm not exactly sure. I don't think they gave it here in the bullet point documentation.
I'd
But
make one out, but I'd go way too Codename Kids Next Door with it, and I don't like those.
fair enough. Twilight, you were assigned to this game. Did they have any inclination of what Pamela actually is in game? Like, what does it stand for?
I don't know what it stands for, but it's the name of an AI in the game, omnipresent AI.
I'm like,
I never did find out what the abbreviation of her name meant. So
yeah. So your guess is as good as ours at this point. I'm sure it's somewhere. It's it's got to be documented somewhere. Or maybe they didn't, and they just wanted to have a acronym that didn't actually mean anything as Pamela. That has happened before, you know. But anyway, yeah. So Pamela is an open-world survival horror game set in a place called Eden, a fallen utopian city. You play as a sleeper, awoken from cryosleep in Eden, a fallen utopia wrought with death and danger. Utilize a wide range of high-tech weapons, equipment, and buildable items that can be upgraded to suit your needs. So yeah, this is an open world survival game. Probably with procedural generation, I imagine, because honestly, that's how they're all crafted.
Not in this case. It's
That
pretty
is
well the same. Well, the items are procedurally generated, but everything else, the layout and everything, it's not.
That's a bit surprising, but yeah. So I was initially given a code of this, but my computer took one look at this game and said no. Yeah. So Twilight Winter was subsequently bequeathed a copy, and he handled the body. So take it away.
All right. Well, as we heard, you are a sleeper. Somebody's been cryogenic stasis for some time. You're among many of them, and the Pamela, this omnipresent AI who oversaw the fallen utopia Eden, has awakened you to ask for your help in saving Eden from an affliction that has broke out that has more or less turned everyone into zombies. They're
I'm
not
just taking off a bingo card at this point.
Yeah, they're not the undead variety. There's something closer to the 28 days later type. I assume some people know the one I'm talking about, the rage fire infected, basically.
Yeah, viral zombies.
Yeah. Something closer to that. And yeah, you're at Pamela's request, you go out to at her with her guidance, go on this quest to sneak your way through the city of Eden and try to find a cure for the affliction, as it's called. The Eden itself was, as already said, the utopia. Life was nearly perfect. All sickness was almost eliminated, and life was good until this affliction came out, and you're essentially, besides Pamela, you're pretty well alone in this city. Everyone else is either dead or turned, and the only other company is the androids that are still functioning. At least the ones that haven't gotten attacked yet by the afflicted, as they're called. And you have to on your quest, search for items like food and liquids to maintain your hunger and thirst, like in all survival games. Failure to do this will lead to you losing health and dying if you don't at least maintain one of these. Among other items, you can find materials for crafting, tools to assist in your quest. Starting out with, well, these items are like plastic, steel, adhesives, and other stuff. You can use these to eventually later on build bases like I can see right here on the video here. They're actually showing you building a base there. Bases are kind of like camps, basically. They're temporary. They're comprised of shields that you put around your perimeter, and you use a power transmitter and an ion core to power the shields, and you pretty much put your bed and whatever other tools like containers, water condensers, and the same for growing plants to assist in making you more self efficient. Unfortunately, I myself was not able to actually get to that part, and I'll explain that a little bit later. I was able to craft the pylons for creating the shields and built the power transmitter, but I still haven't been able to make ion cores yet. And however, um, you can find places to hide out for the night. Of course, this game's got a night and day cycle, and nights are not exactly safe. Night things actually get a little bit worse at night, and you know, you can create a sleeping bag, and so I was never able to make one of those as well, and they're not exactly that necessary early on. But anyway, you can use the pylons to build sort of a wall, though, if you find the right place for that, somewhat enclosed area, and just hide out for the night until morning comes, and you can go back out and continue your quest. Anyway, so among other things you can build, you can create armor and weapons for combat. Of course, as I said earlier, you can sneak around and don't, if you can, not fight the afflicted. But there are times where you will, of course, have to, and armor and weapons will, of course, help you in your battles against them. Combat in itself is kind of clunky. Starting out, you of course only have your fists. The afflicted will come at you with swipes and kicks, and your basic attack is this really awkward lunge punch. Just lunge forward and punch at them, and it puts you at kind of a risk of getting hit if you have poor timing at that. And you're kind of squishy, and you can get as much armor as you want, and you will still be on the squishy side. However, weapons such as, for example, one of my favorite ones, the Warden Fist. Well, it's a punch in itself, but it also has this shockwave effect that, well, a normal barehanded punch will maybe stagger the afflicted. The Warden Fist will actually knock them back and send them flying a few feet. Give you a chance to either run away or continue attacking them while they're down. Of course, you may actually want to get projectile weapons such as, I think it was called a mortar, launcher, as I was called a rocket launcher myself, and it's actually pretty handy for dealing with the enemies. It knocks them down and does a lot of damage to them as well. And its only drawback is that you can miss pretty easily because these zombies aren't exactly stupid. They can actually dodge if they see you coming with an attack. Another weapon, for example, is the surgical laser. I didn't like it quite as much as the rocket launcher. It was stunned if um, the enemies, but that's about it. It didn't really seem to do a lot of damage. And each weapon has its own alternate fire. The surgical laser, for example, has a charge to it. They can do as an alternate fire, and it really didn't do much better. And all the weapons share an energy supply. Like your character has his own energy supply with him, and it just was pretty much a waste of energy. I never really um, saw the alternate fires for the other two weapons. There were other ones. I came across a spear gun, but I never did use it because I was satisfied with my rocket launcher at the time. um, let's see here. There are I don't know how important this is to get into. There are different types of enemies besides the basic zombie ones, who are kind of slow and still pretty dangerous on their own. There's also these much more powerful ones called Reapers and Widows. The Reapers have this roar that you don't want to get caught in. I don't really remember what I exactly did. It was one of the last times I played the game, and I got killed fighting that thing. The Widows, they can scream and alert other enemies to your presence, and they're really fast. And among other ones, there are also robots you have to worry about as well, like the Seekers. They're neutral unless you give them reason to attack you. But then at night, there are these ones called usually called Dark Seekers. They're invisible and they and they're extremely hostile towards you, and they're the things you want to be hiding from at night. And I personally can actually appreciate this. Some survival horror type games, night and day aren't all that different from one another. But it's always nice to see when you're given reason to be more careful at night. It's just a thing with me as a fan of horror games. Let's see here. There's also P.A.M.E.L.A abilities. These were another thing I really couldn't really get into for later reasons. They're kind of sort of this game's version of not exactly magic, but special abilities. You gain access to them through compute cells, not cores. And with each one, you can gain access to a new ability from her. And there's things like buffs, special attacks, as well as some defensive stuff like one I didn't really see any use for was a guiding light sort of ability, where Pamela herself, who will at times during the story manifest as sort of a fairy-like um, entity, and she'll guide you through dark areas with this guiding light ability. I just thought the flashlight was good enough, and it's all right. Um, let's see here. But the overall gameplay experience, I actually pretty well enjoyed it. I'm kind of a sucker for these types of games, and it's been a much more single player sort made it much better. It seemed like there was apparently plans for a multiplayer, but I don't think they're going to be happening. Apparently, well, I actually don't think there was really any plans from what I've read. But anyway, but yeah, this was a much better experience than I've had with most other open world survival games, except this game is not well optimized. And this is most noticeable during combat, and at times in much busier parts of the world itself. Yeah, there are times where the game will freeze up for a moment and unfreeze, and the worst times this could possibly happen is during combat. This will allow the enemy to get a few shots in on you where you're frozen, and it's an easy way to die. There's some sort of walk stuttering as well, and it's not the worst thing. I didn't find all that annoying myself, but it did make me worry at times that the game was going to crash, but it never did. But I've read there was apparently some people who had that issue happen, and there's also some bugs as well. There was a few instances where I saw that the enemies would spawn in some odd places. You would find them like caught behind furniture next to a wall, and it'll be right behind like a chair or something. They'll be stuck there, and they'll see you and try to run at you, but they can't get free from their from the objects they're behind, and you can just walk right on by them or take cheap shots at them and kill them if you want. I think that's about everything in terms of gameplay. Oh yeah, yeah, I should have mentioned the difficulty settings. Right quick, you see these at the beginning of a new playthrough, or each time you die. Well, no, I'm wrong there. At the beginning of each of a new playthrough, these are adjustable settings for difficulty. They like there's like a option for permadeath. I did not bother with that. And there's like option for adjusting enemy damage, the rate that your hunger and thirst depletes, a few other things. This is for a customized experience. But you also gain some extra experience points for when you actually start a game. You can go ahead and put in a few points towards your character's level. This is another thing I never forgot to mention, but I forgot what the proper name for it is, but there's a sort of leveling tree you can access in various cryogenic stasis type places where you can change your character's various abilities, but put points into their various abilities. Like you can improve character's fatigue, which of course that's for like running and such, in battle as well. Um, chance of gain of rare item drops. Um, there was a few other things as well. I don't remember what they all were. I was going for the rare item drops because more rare items are good. um, yeah, that's about it for the gameplay. As for the graphics and animations, the look of Pamela's world, Eden, is actually quite nice. It definitely has this clinical, futuristic feel to it. Everything you can tell was at one point nice and clean and sleek and such, but of course the outbreak of the affliction has destroyed everything, and the the like the lighting effects were really nice as well, and in the dark areas and at night it's looks really creepy as well. The enemies themselves, um, some of the human models were a tad bit kind of creepy looking, but I mean, when you die, you can find your corpse, and your character's corpse is kind of a little odd looking, but I think that kind of works in favor of the afflicted, with their more twisted, mangled appearance. Like they're not the most horrifying things, but to look at, but they're still kind of unsettling looking. Um, as for the sound and music, I do not remember much music. Um, yeah, there's some in the title screen, but it's just sort of, I think it's like a piano melody or something like that. It sounded nice, but that's about it. I think some music will, well, what I'm trying to say is, at times, well, most of the time at least, you're going to only be hearing ambient noises while you're exploring, and that's the only time you ever hear music is when you encounter an enemy, and again, I do not really remember much in terms of music. As for sounds, the sounds are actually quite effective, especially at night when you're hiding out somewhere and you just hear the roars and cries of the enemies. It definitely adds a creepy factor to it. And also while exploring as well, when you're inside buildings that have no lights in them, and hearing the ragged breathing of the afflicted and whatnot, yeah, it's pretty effective. So that gets us to pricing. Um, um, right now the game's at $24.99, $25. At this current time, I really can't recommend this game. I'm just now realizing I didn't mention it before, but the performance issues. I forgot to mention that This game can actually push your CPU to its max, no matter what settings you use. And that could put your CPU at risk of overheating unless you have a really good liquid cooling system. Otherwise, if you don't, I can't really recommend this game at this time. It's good. I like what I played of it. I can only play it for short spans of time. But until this game's better optimized to where it doesn't push your CPU so hard, I can't really recommend it. But if you want to try it out, at least get it on sale. But otherwise, yeah, I can't recommend it, unfortunately. But it's a game with potential, and that's about all I can say. Does anybody have any questions, like things I might not mentioned?
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right then. That's it for me.
All right. So that'll about do it for Pamela here. Be sure to tune in after the break as we review Rush Rover.